Welcome to another episode of the Plutus Awards podcast. Our community is filled with hundreds of stories from creators and entrepreneurs just like you. And through this show, we share the stories of challenges and successes from bloggers to podcasters, from writers, speakers, and more. I'm your host, Michelle Jackson. Today's guest is Rachel Hernandez, the mobile home girl. In this episode, Rachel and I talk about listening to what your audience tells you they want from you, leaning into your authority, and how making mistakes helps content creators find the right products and services for their brand. I really enjoyed this episode, and I feel like Rachel shares so many good tips. Let me know what you think after the show.
My name is Rachel Hernandez, aka Mobile Home Gurl, and I run a blog and podcast called Adventures in Mobile Homes on mobile home investing. And I started my blog way back in 2007, and I've been podcasting since 2020. So I've been around for a while.
Rachel, I had no idea that you started in 2007.
Yes, it's been a while.
You know what? This has me thinking. Could you talk a little bit about the difference in creating content in the personal finance space or just online versus what you do now? Like, what was it like then versus now? And what are some of the changes that you've noticed?
Sure. Way back in 2007, the focus was more on blogging, the content, written content, versus what you see now. A lot of it's interactive. So now you see people on Instagram stories, they're on Instagram, they're on more on social media. Back then in 2007, I think social media was just starting out. And so I was kind of late to the game with social media myself because I just focused on writing. So that is pretty much the difference between now and back then. And also now people kind of want to see more of you, more of your face and who you are. So different forms of media, they want to see video, audio, whatever it is, but you've got to be comfortable doing what you do as well too. So you've got to have that balance as well too. But I think people want to see more of you in whatever you do, whether that's writing, blogging, being on video or podcasting, those different mediums.
Are blogs dead?
No, they're not, because, there are people who do blog and they're very successful, especially in the personal finance space. I think they've been blogging for a while, so they've got a tight community. They've got a loyal following. And I think the people that are the most successful are the ones that are the most transparent and the most honest. You don't see just the good, but you also see the bads, ups and downs, versus other people who they just show the good, but you don't see all sides of the story, whatever story they're trying to tell in their narrative as a personal finance writer or content creator.
Why is story so important in content creation? Like what's the point of sharing your story? There are a lot of people who want to lean into SEO. What is the difference in an SEO focused content creation strategy versus sharing who you are and why you do what you do?
Okay, sure. First thing, I do want to make a disclaimer. I am not an expert in SEO. I've never been good at it. And I will share that my good friend, Jay Money, and I asked him about this. He has never been good at it either. He would actually laugh if you asked him about SEO. So with that being said, I've done so much research on SEO. I did some of the things that you've read in articles and videos. I even went to a virtual conference with Neil Patel on SEO, and I didn't even finish all the videos. So for me, that really hasn't worked as well as actually telling my story and building my audience to people who actually want to hear my story. Story is so important because your story is unique to you. Anyone can go out there and write a blog post or do a YouTube video on how to save money in personal finance or what's the best credit card rate for this or whatnot. It's so generic. But if you actually can tell a story around that topic and include you as the writer, or if you're interviewing someone, include them and their story, it makes it so much more interesting to people, because that's why people are interested, because of stories. And that's what kind of sets you apart from other content creators, if you can weave stories together and tell them in a way that can intrigue people.
Could you share how you got into the mobile home business and what was the story behind how that interest got you involved in the personal finance space?
Sure. Well, my story is I started out like a lot of real estate investors. I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and I got into real estate investing and I started out in single family homes. And what I did was I found deals for other investors by bird dogging and then wholesaling my deals just to build up cash. And once I built enough cash, then I was able to go out and buy single family homes for cash flow. So that's pretty much my story. And I actually got burnt out as a landlord managing these properties. So I brought in property management. But what I found was even though I had property management managing my rentals, I still had to manage the managers. And every month they got paid out of the rent that came in for my properties. And I also had to pay homeowners insurance, HOA insurance, the mortgage, all of that. And so at the end of the day, there's not much left in terms of cash flow unless you have a lot of properties. And that can kind of be hard for someone just starting out. So after I did that for a while, I decided to sell my entire real estate portfolio, all my single family homes. And then I looked into mobile home investing. And so I started out with mobile home investing with the intention of buying these homes for all cash and then selling them or renting them out for cash flow. So all the cash that comes for me from my mobile homes are actually coming to me, and I don't have a mortgage on these properties.
Okay, before we get any further, what is bird dogging?
Sure. Bird dogging is basically where you go and act kind of like a scout for real estate investors. So you could have like a list of buyers, people who are looking for real estate investments, but they don't have the time to go out there and scout these neighborhoods. They know what neighborhoods they want to buy in. They know how much they want to spend. They've already got financing. A lot of times they already have the cash or they have lines of credit to buy these properties, but they just need someone to go out there and find these properties. So they either work with a real estate agent or a bird dog or a couple of bird dogs who go out there and scout these properties. And they go out there and look for the properties, get all the information, make sure it fits their criteria, and then bring the deal to the investor. And then from there, the investor talks to the seller and decides, okay, should I buy this or not? And if they end up buying that as a bird dog, you actually get a fee, a reward. You got to work it out with the investor for bringing that deal to them and them purchasing the home. So you only get paid as a bird dog if they actually purchase the property. And that's kind of what a bird dog is.
I want to ask a question that I think is a little awkward, but I think it's important because different people view different opportunities based on just their life experience or just how we've heard about them. And when I think of mobile homes, I've always thought of them not in a positive light. I'm not sure why that is. It's always been a thing, and it's something that I've tried to figure out where that came from. Was there a familiarity with mobile homes for you, or how were mobile homes more attractive than a small single family unit? I know you're talking about the financing part initially, but did you have any reticence around that type of property? I think part of it is just the weather here and me seeing mobile homes in tornado alleys just ripped apart. So I'm inherently a little unnerved by them. Did you have a reticence around that as a property type to purchase? I guess it's an awkward question, but I've wondered about it actually for quite a while.
No, that's a good question, Michelle, because a lot of people, myself included, have their qualms about mobile homes in terms of their construction and how they're made. And just like single family homes, I know what you're thinking about, kind of like that movie 8 Mile that comes to mind to a lot of people when they hear the word mobile home, myself included. you think, oh, it's going to be low income, it's going to be run down. And that's not the case at all. That is one type. And most times those kind of communities are called trailer parks. But a manufactured home or mobile home can have be in different types of communities. So you've got your low end communities, your middle of the road, and then you've got your high end communities. I'm talking about like 4 or 5 star parks, just like how you have it in single family homes. So for me as a mobile home investor in the beginning, I did not see the difference between any of them because I was so green and so new. So I did deals in low end, middle of the road, and high end parks. And I just had a lot of bad experiences. This was my experience personally in more the lower end types of parks because it just didn't fit the type of clientele that I wanted to work with. So through experience, I actually started to do more deals in higher end parks. And now I exclusively only do deals in high-end parks. So there are different types of neighborhoods depending on the location for mobile home communities.
So this season of the Plutus Awards podcast, we're talking about the tension that occurs when you start monetizing a platform, a personal finance platform. But I think it would be really helpful to talk about the genesis of you creating your platform. Like you said, you started blogging, but how did you create a community? Did you create a community? How did you grow what you were doing, especially as you became the mobile home girl?
Well, honestly, Michelle, a lot of trial and error. I kid you not. So naturally, I started the blog back in 2007, and I did a lot of things that most newbie bloggers do when they start blogging. I had requests from these publications to run ads. So I took some money here and there from some of these magazines who wanted to run ads on my sites. And then there was some small business owners who were targeting mobile home investors and real estate investors to run ads on my site. So I did a little bit of that when I first started out. And then I did the Google AdSense thing. Everyone does that. The other thing I did, because I did reviews on books and courses. So I started doing affiliate marketing, affiliate links, Amazon, that kind of stuff. And then as I grew my network, I got to know other real estate investing bloggers. And then they had their own affiliate programs in terms of courses and books that they sold. So I signed up for their stuff as well, too. And then after that, I kind of looked, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I was kind of tired of the hustle. Like, okay, I'm writing all these blog posts and I'm getting all this ad revenue, but I always had to convince people to come to my blog. So I'm like, I had to step back and what am I doing? What can I do to make things easier? And that's where I really came up with the idea. I really need to build my authority. And that's one thing that I am actually really big on as a blogger and a podcaster, building authority to make yourself stand out. And I did talk about this last year at FinCon virtual about that. So what I did, which kind of changed everything, I wrote a book. I think it was in 2012, and it was called Adventures in Mobile Homes, How I Got Started in Mobile Home Investing and How You Can Too. And it was basically my story on how I got started. And then it was kind of like a start guide for people who also wanted to get started in mobile home investing as well, too. And then once I wrote that book, then people started to actually come to my site. I started doing speaking engagements. I did one in Canada, virtually to some real estate investors. And then I started speaking. And that's when I started to really, really, really build up my authority. So at that point, after I had the book and then I started speaking, then I started doing consulting. So people were paying me hourly to do consulting on mobile home investing. And then after that, after I did with the consulting, then I started having courses and then I started having the podcast. And once I had the podcast, then I started getting interviewed by other podcasters about mobile home investing. So it was a lot of just hit or miss, try this, try that, what worked for me. And I found out the top things that worked for me because of my personality. In a prior life, I was a sales executive for Fortune 500 corporations. was one, networking, and two, speaking. And I'm really good at that kind of stuff, being out in the field, speaking, talking to people, and also networking. So I just kind of focused on that and just started going to these conferences like Plutus Impact Summit last year and FinCon back in 2015. That was my first FinCon. And that's when I started to really get the ball rolling in terms of building authority and just getting the word out to people about my blog and that I'm Mobile Home Gurl and I do mobile home investing.
I'm curious about your book. Did you self-publish that book or did you partner with someone? And how did people find it?
Sure. Yes, I did self-publish. And I think I wrote on the blog that I was thinking about writing a book. And when I put that out there, I actually had been contacted by a few small publishers for them to take me on to publish my book. And I had to look into like, should I self-publish? Should I not self-publish, work with a company? And I decided at that point, this is my first book. I want control over what I'm doing. So I decided to self-publish my first book. And then in the future, if something comes down the road, I'll look into if another company does want to publish my book in the future. But I did self-publish the first book. And how did people find me? Actually, I did a lot of guest posts. So once the book came out, I contacted all the people that I did guest posts for. And then I was also doing podcast interviews as well, too. And then, of course, my email list. And I just kind of told them that, hey, I have this book out, and they helped promote me because I was a guest on their show or I had written an article for them in the past. So that's kind of how I got the word out on the book. It was a lot of word of mouth.
How did you kind of grow your community and what was their expectations of you? Because a key part, again, of this conversation is going from free to paid in your content. So I'm curious about that those first couple of years when you were serving of service to people and you're developing these products. What do you think your community wanted from you? And when was the point where you were like, you know what, things need to change and this is how it's going to look like?
That's a good question. And you're going to laugh, Michelle, but my community was actually telling me that I need to come up with a course. And for me, I did not want to be that real estate investing guru selling courses and being some snake oil salesperson on the internet. So I refused to do a course for years. And there'll always be people on my list, usually, when are you going to come up with a course? When are you going to? And I was like, well, I've got this consulting, but people wanted a course. People wanted group coaching. And I just completely like, no, that's not me. That's not me. I don't want to be this motivational person. To me, that was a bad thing. And so I think it wasn't until I started doing the podcast that I actually saw the benefit of doing the course because I was doing all this consulting, but I was answering the same types of questions from people just wanting to get started in mobile home investing. And so that's when I finally decided to, okay, I'll come up with the course, see if people like it. I wanted to make it affordable. I didn't want it to make it crazy high amount of money. And then we'll just see what happens. And what I found was once I did it, I knew why I wanted to create a course now, because it saved me time. I did less consulting from people because they had the course to work with. Now I do get people who still want me to consult, but my time is limited because I have so many projects going on. So that's at the point where I knew I had to do something to free up my time. So, but people could still learn from me at the same time.
It's funny that you had this reservation around the course, because for me, I immediately thought some people are busy and they might not have the time available when you're free, right? To do a consultation. And the course might allow them to learn at their own pace. So I really think about courses in a different way. I've taken several online courses and have really enjoyed it. And I would like to kind of touch a little more on why it was initially such a negative thing for you. Did you have a bad experience with someone else's product, or what was it about creating a product that gave you some reservations or concerns?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't me personally that had a bad experience with someone else's product. In real estate investing, I've just seen so many scammers out there. Like, it's easy money. All you have to do is pay for my course, and you can be a millionaire, in a month kind of thing. And it just really irked me. And back in the day, you would see these, we call them little infomercials, people on the beach, and oh, yeah, it was just looking in the newspaper and then I sold this property. I mean, it's not even like that. So I didn't want to be one of those people who, to me, if I did that, even if I made a good course, I would still feel guilty. Like, why am I being like that person trying to sell a course? So it really took me getting the course together and actually doing it to find out, oh my gosh, this actually frees up my time because this is actually what people are telling me they want from me. But at the same time, I wanted to make it affordable because I know everyone has their own situation. I didn't want to make it like some crazy amount of money for my course, but I also wanted to at least have it enough affordable, but also for my time, it's worth it to put my time into it. So that's kind of my story about course. I know it sounds kind of a weird that way.
No, I actually think it's very relatable. I think that a lot of content creators are very nervous about how their products will be received for that reason, that there were a lot of people who are selling the dream instead of being like, look, mm-hmm. I can't guarantee you anything. And it's weird because in the US, we have full disclosure laws. Like, we are told to disclose that this is for entertainment purposes only. We're told to disclose that your results may not be the same as mine. So it's interesting that in all the framework of US law and how we're supposed to speak about our products and goods that we sell and put out there in the world, that people still get tempted by this snake oil salesman shtick that really is unnecessary. And I find that when you just tell people like, look, you may or may not get the same results as me, but at least you've got this resource you can refer to. That's a lot more genuine versus being disingenuous around what the outcome will be in the end.
Yeah. And I find that specifically for the audience that I have and the people I want to work with, I'm here to make it as realistic as possible. I know that does sell because I was a salesperson in a prior life, but I don't want to be working with people who want to get rich quick and this is going to be overnight, and because they're going to have expectations and it's really not like that. So yeah, it took me this long to figure out what I really want and how I really want to do it. But now I know what kind of, I guess we call it on the personal avatar we want to work with as a content creator.
I'm curious about some moves you're making now. You deepen your monetization strategy. And when we were preparing for the call, and thank you so much for being a guest, and there's a tight turnaround. But one of the things that you mentioned was that right now you are building out a membership. Could you talk about what that looks like? And are you moving everyone to the paid membership, or just if you could share what your strategy is? I think that'll be really interesting. And what's the feedback been like by your community?
Sure. So basically, I've had the membership. I'm a podcaster. I've had it open for a year, and I do everything through Buy Me a Coffee because it makes things so much easier. I did have everything on Patreon before, but the interface didn't work for me. And I don't really push it. I haven't really pushed it this whole year, except for my most recent podcast episode. So what I did to actually ease people into it, I called it more of a support page. If you want to support me, this is what you can do. You can buy me a coffee because you like my content, or you can become a member. And I had to go through a couple of different ideas. Okay, what can a person get as a member? So I had to go through a couple things like that. And I found that people want to see more behind the scenes. It's just feedback from people that people get. I've actually had some readers like, I really want a place to like hang out and talk about what people are not saying online because they want it more of a private space. And so I kind of started thinking about it. at first I thought it was a little bit hokey because I'm like, I don't know, buy me a coffee, blah, blah, blah. I'm coming from being an author, Michelle. So, I mean, you can totally relate to me. I know. We like to do things a certain way and be professional. But I actually got the idea from, and you know her, Danielle Desir.
Yes.
Yes. She interviewed me for the Plutus, the Millennial Wealth Builder series with Aquania Escarnet. But she was really encouraging me to do a membership program because she was like, you've got to put your content behind a paywall, because it's very niche. And a lot of our friends in the personal finance community, I mean, they've even said, Rachel, you don't even have to work that hard. There's not that many people doing what you're doing.
You're literally the only person I can think of doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And then the people who are doing it, they've got a different audience. So, I mean, they're in different communities. So it wasn't until she was pushing me, Danielle, you need to put it through a paywall that it's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I will tell everyone, if you're thinking about a membership, just keep this in mind. I went to the Plutus Impact Summit last year. Did you go, Michelle? I think you were there for the virtual one.
I don't think I was, but I also went to like a zillion different things last year. Everything's a blur.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I went to the Plutus Impact Summit and I heard Ramit Sethi in the fireside chat, the author of I Will Teach You to Be Rich. He actually had a bit of really good wisdom. He told everyone, do not sell anything that you wouldn't buy yourself. Okay. So that really rang true to me in terms of how intentional I want to be with the courses that I sell, the price point, and then also the membership program. And I'm going to make a disclosure here. I actually am part of a membership program. You probably know her. She spoke at Podthon last year. You know Jen Amos? She's a podcaster. Yeah, I think, She runs the Filipino American Women Project podcast.
I need to check that out.
Yes. Okay. So I'm Filipino American by descent, and I really like her podcast and what she's doing with her co-host, Nani Dominguez. And I actually decided to join her membership program because I really like their production value. I like what they talk about. They're very organized, and also to learn about my Filipino heritage as well, too. So I am part of a membership program. So to me, offering a membership program came in line with Ramit Sethi, what he said, don't sell anything you wouldn't buy yourself. So now I have a membership program.
Join Julian Sanders, Janice Torres-Rodriguez, Jason Vitug, and more at the Plutus Impact Summit, a virtual event for financial content creators and influencers on July 22nd and 23rd. See all the sessions and register for free at plutisimpact.com.
What are the key components to a good membership program? Are there things that you're doing differently from Jen in the sense that you have different audiences and so they have different needs? Or are you using what she does as a template for what you do?
Yes, actually, a little bit of both. I mean, she definitely has a different audience than me because my audience is more real estate investors versus her audience are Filipino American women. But some of the stuff that she's actually using for her membership program, she does like some behind the scenes, some more serious topics that are on the minds of other Filipino American women. They actually have a book club that's with her membership program, which is very interesting because I'm reading about Filipino history now and I'm learning about it, Filipino American history, actually. So it's very interesting. So I'm learning a little bit about how she does that and then trying to focus, okay, for my membership, what can I offer members? And I will tell you, it was a lot of trial and error, but I know people want to see the behind the scenes of my mobile home investing business. So they want to see the before and after pictures. And those posts, when I was doing them back in 2007 on all my deals, they took me hours to put together, Michelle. Seriously. And then I had videos and walkthroughs and it just took so long. So I know definitely that's one thing people want from a membership program. So I have that. I also have discounts to all my courses and consulting for members. And then one thing that I found through trial and error, and this was just kind of like thinking and brainstorming, I get leads on mobile homes all the time from investors. They're like, Rachel, I don't want it. What, can you do something? Can you buy this? And I'm not going to I don't buy mobile homes all over the country because people have asked me, or can you partner on a deal and blah, blah, blah. I only stay focused in Texas. So when these leads come in, whether they be mobile homes or someone wanting to partner, someone needing financing, whatever, any of that, those go to the people. I put a post on my Buy Me a Coffee page, and then that is exclusive to my members. And the minute I actually put that, I started getting members. So that was an idea that, like, I brainstormed that actually worked. People want these leads. So the other thing that I found, and this was through brainstorming, is people want to know things that you cannot find anywhere else, like on the internet, or people are not talking about it. And this has been a real passion of mine as a mobile home investor. There are things that I really want to say, but I want to say it more in a safe space. So that's for my members. So one thing I'm working on, and I'm about to launch it this week, I'm doing a video commentary on a mobile home investing guru who's actually scamming a lot of investors out of their money. No, this is huge. Like, it's to the point where, and I'm not going to say the person's name, it's to the point where there's actually multiple lawsuits going on. They're trying to get the FBI involved. But it's a really, really, really big deal. So as soon as I put that post up, I kind of pieced some evidence together. It's only for members. People started signing up. And now I've got the video commentary coming out. I mean, it's taken me days to put this together. It's not like something I just throw in an hour. I've got a Canva presentation, everything, and then I'm talking, and then I'm presenting the evidence and all that, and the aftermath, and what exactly was the scam, and how are these people getting affected, and blah, blah, blah. You can go and try to find this information if you want, but people don't have time for that. So I'm piecing everything together. So it's kind of like, Michelle, I'm running my own programming. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm like HBO or anything like that, but I'm like the HBO of mobile home investing. You know what I mean? So
actually, I just heard the Law and Order music in my head, like the theme music. Dun, 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 dun. This is what's happening in the mobile home space.
Exactly.
Dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. So stuff like that and other ideas, like all these resources that I know, but most people don't know where to look for these resources. There's a lot of things going on in the mobile home investing space, but it's getting suppressed in certain ways because certain people have money to suppress that. I mean, you know how these things work. So if people are interested in that kind of stuff, that's also a benefit of becoming a member.
And it's also a benefit of running your own membership platform and being the boss of your platform is you dictate the content.
Yes. And I will say I looked into sponsorships. I know you work with companies. I looked into sponsorships. I've even talked to Lacey Langford. She gave me some advice on sponsorship. She even spoke at FinCon last year about it. And I reached out to a lot of companies in terms of potential sponsorships. And I mean, in the manufactured housing space, and it was great to talk to these companies, but I didn't know if it fit what I was trying to do because a lot of them wanted me to talk about their new lines of homes. And I don't deal with new homes. As a mobile home investor, we buy used homes. So, I just kind of paused everything with the sponsorships and they want to do things a certain way. And then it has to be run by legal. Then there's like 10 people on a team that I've got to deal with. So I kind of paused things, halt the brakes on that. And then I, just started with the membership program instead of going with the sponsorships at this time.
Is this the primary thing that you do now?
You mean the membership program?
Just everything with Mobile Home Gurl. Is that your thing? Or do you have like a 9 to 5 as well?
No, actually, I do not have a 9 to 5. I'm pretty set with the mobile homes that I have making income. So I make 6 figures a year with my business, just the mobile home investing business. That's my real job.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah. But okay. So I've got a lot of different streams of income. I also, and you're going to laugh because I'm a workaholic, I have a book business, a low content publishing book business as well too. And I found out about that through our good friend Nick Loper on the Side Hustle Show. And I started doing that, I think at the end of 2020. Yeah. And so what I do is I make these low content notebooks, journals, planners, anything like that, research notebooks. And then I actually kind of combine it with my courses. So one thing that I came out with recently was a mobile home park research notebook. So basically, the students of my course can go out and buy this mobile home park research notebook on Amazon, and they actually can fill in, okay, I'm talking to this park and, you know, how many lots and blah, blah, blah. And the park manager's name is this and blah, 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 blah. And it's been a really good thing. I really love it. I love designing books. Like I didn't think I'd be good at it, but I love doing it. Yes.
I'm curious about the books though. So first of all, you're creating this massive ecosystem for your brand, and it's multi-tiered. There are price points at different levels, which I like, so people can work with you wherever they are at. So there's no pressure, which I think is a key part of monetizing a brand. I think sometimes where it can be challenging for content creators is to figure out how they can monetize their brand in such a way that, one, it doesn't upset their ideal avatar, their ideal customer avatar, but also doesn't have them focused on in such a way that people are like, you're kind of scamming people, blah, 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 blah. And I think when you have all these different ways to work with you, from free to paid, you can just be like, look, like you could just get a $3 book. It's not that big a deal. And are the books soft covers or are they ebooks?
The low content publishing business, those are actually paperback. I did get on Amazon. I can do hardback if I want. But so basically, if someone wanted like a real estate journal or real estate planner, I actually design it. And actually, out of all my, you're going to laugh, Michelle, out of all my streams of income, I have the most fun with the low content business. It's just, I just love designing books. I think it's because I'm talking to people all the time. I just need to get away, you know, from people sometimes, you know, and it just, and that's one of the things I wanted to say about the membership program. Instead of working with sponsors, you're also on their time if you start working with businesses and sponsors. So, and then talking with people, running things through legal, blah, blah, blah. On the membership program, you're doing things at your own pace, depending on what you cite. Like if you do an event or if you write a blog post or if you do a video, I mean, the list can go on and on. I mean, I've got all these projects going on. I'm consulting on a movie right now with an award-winning director for my mobile home expertise. So I don't have time to be, you know, on the phone with people all the time.
I actually have a question about all these projects. How are you navigating the time commitment to do this? Like, walk me through how you're able to successfully make things happen. How do you avoid dropping the ball, you know, like in key points of your business or key parts of your business?
Sure. And you're going to laugh, Michelle. And I know I've said this several times throughout this interview. I get up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Girl.
I am not a night person. So I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing I do is do my exercises. And then after that, then I start my day, and everything is in the calendar. Everything is marked off in the calendar. So and one thing I want to tell you, I mean, I know you're big on this, but I have actually been doing less of social media lately, just because I want to be more productive. I do it. I set aside certain times for it now during the day, but I'm just less time on it as well too. And that has saved me so much time.
For someone who's listening to this episode who's looking to monetize their brand and they're at the beginning stages of it, what is a piece of advice you'd give them about the process in terms of what to expect or what to consider?
I think you were asking if there's pushback, trying to monetize things. And for me personally, there hasn't been any pushbacks. Like every time I send an email, I will get 1 or 2 people unsubscribe from my list, which is completely understandable. But I've never had anyone complain like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, you're making money, blah, blah, blah. I haven't had that kind of pushback. And I think one of the reasons is because I've already built up my authority. So for people starting out in the beginning, it's going to get rocky. You got to, have, that balance. The people who do it really well, who don't have authority, they actually spend a lot of time with their audience. So they're posting multiple times on Instagram. This girl, she's an author. She interviewed me for one of her courses lately, and she is posting crazy amounts of stories on her Instagram. I mean, she spends a lot of time with her audience. So if you're going on that route, you don't have the authority yet. You just have to keep in mind, you're going to have to build your community one person at a time, and that's what I did before I did all this to build up my authority. So if you're just starting out, kind of make a list. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then just focus on your strengths and what you're good at. And for me in the beginning, I was trying to do everything. I'm telling you, I told you, Michelle, I was trying to learn SEO. I am not an SEO gal. So I get things done by just talking to people. So
at the beginning of our conversation, you talked about how important your relationships were in building your brand and how attending events and things like that were really impactful. And with COVID, clearly that impacted everything. And we shifted to online. And now we're making the shift back to in person, but I'm convinced everyone's a little weird right now. I'm like 100% convinced we've gotten weird. So how would you advise people to network in person after a hiatus like that, after being online for so long? Because the way you connect is very different, I think. I think there's a skill set that some people have where they're able to connect with people online and then transition those connections offline. But because of the amount of time we've been at home, I think that may have impacted some people's in-person skill set. So what are your tips on that? And then I have a final question.
Sure. I mean, I think just kind of start practicing. I mean, whether you do it locally, because there's groups that meet locally, or if you do it online, even if you still do it online, and, if you're part of any groups online, I'm part of a couple groups online. For me personally, just talking comes natural. I can talk a lot. Yeah, exactly. That's why we get along, Michelle.
Yes.
So you've got to force yourself, but at the same time, be yourself as well too. You want to find that balance. And I find when we are ourselves the most, that's where we can shine as a person.
Rachel, thank you so much for this conversation. I actually let it go longer because it was just so good. If you could let us know how we can find you and follow you and all the things, that would be phenomenal.
Sure, no problem. Well, I'm going to make it really easy for people to find me. It's really easy. It's my website, my brand page, mobilehomegurl.com, and that's girl with a U.
And what's next for you?
What's next? Well, growing this membership site, of course. I do want to focus a lot on the low content book business this year. I really want to get going. I'm really excited about it. And also, if anyone is interested, I actually like to do outdoor activities. I don't know how you feel about this, Michelle, but I love riding my electric unicycle around town. So.
I think it's legit, but I'm very anti-electric everything. So just ignore me on that. But I still think it's pretty cool. And you would actually have a serious community of unicyclists here to hang out with, which is
super fun.
I'm trying to learn how to skateboard. I think that's the plan for this summer. So I will skateboard, and if I make it to Texas, we'll have to hang out, but it'll be too hot in the summer and I would die. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Thank you so much. This was phenomenal. And I just wish you continued success.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.